Welcome to the Board Wrap-Up Show with Superintendent Shelley Arrett. I'm your host, Sean Anderson for Ponca City Public Schools. And this month, we're talking about the Board of Education meeting for July. And Shelley, the superintendent's report, all about return to learn.
Well, that was one component. That was the longest portion of the board meeting for the superintendent's report. And last month, I kind of gave the board members a preview of our return to learn plan, but it does have to be board approved. So we went through and talked about some key prevention strategies for next year, and Senate Bill 658 is a bill that does not allow schools, private schools, universities to impose a mask mandate unless the governor declares a state of emergency. So if there is a state of emergency declared for Oklahoma or for any of our counties, then we can have a mask mandate. Now, that will be a key prevention strategy if it gets to that point, if numbers amp up, and they have been here lately, but we haven't gotten any type of clue that we're going to go to a state of emergency. So that's why we are promoting vaccines. That's going to be our best tool. We will continue in our schools to physical distance and group our kids in cohorts or small groups, just so that we can maintain that distancing and try to save students from being a close contact. So we'll continue on with that. We'll focus on hand washing and proper respiratory etiquette, the proper way to wash your hands. There's little videos that we can use. Our nurses come in and do some things, and we constantly discuss that with our kids, and that's been a big portion. And then cleaning and maintaining our facilities will still be, not change. And contact tracing in combination with the K County Health Department as far as isolations and quarantines will still play a factor. So one thing that I do want to point out, yesterday the new COVID risk alert came out and it was 12.3. We're still in the yellow zone, but the previous week we were at 3.0. So we had a big jump, and with our safety protocols, using those key prevention strategies, minus the masking unless the governor declares a state of emergency, in the green and yellow risk, we're going to continue on with school as normal, implementing those 5 key pieces that we know work. The one thing that we're not going to do this year, and I don't think any schools are the temperature checks. We didn't gain a lot of results from that. So at orange level 1, if the governor declares a state of emergency, we may impose a mask mandate in common areas, or if the risk level gets really high, then it may be all the time in a mask mandate, but we're not there yet. Then if we get to the orange 2 COVID risk alert, that's at 25 new cases per day per 100,000 capita. And if the governor declares a state of emergency, we'll require masks all the time. And we may limit facilities, use of facilities, number of spectators, crowds, guests, that kind of thing. And then red, all of the above, and at some point we could go to distance learning, but that would have to be board approved. So the return to learn plan is on our website, and it's pretty detailed, but we have a graph that just explains it all, and then we'll use those mitigation strategies. So who knows what's to come. We're ready to roll with it, whatever comes our way.
The experience through the last year and a half kind of prepares you. I mean, you have all of it in place to go to if needed.
Well, one thing that we've learned, you can't what if. What might happen with COVID. We roll with it and do what we have to do. And with that being said, as one of our key prevention strategies is cleaning and maintaining our buildings. With our Coronavirus Relief Act funds, one of the things that we had to focus on was preventing, and we were able to purchase some Meteor Education Casper units, and these are high-tech units that pull pathogens out of the air. Not only COVID, but strep, or staph, mold.
Right.
We're going to have a Casper unit in every classroom, which gives us a little additional peace of mind that not only are we working to prevent COVID, but other pathogens.
It might cut down on other illnesses.
Yes, we're hopeful.
Yeah.
So
that's fantastic.
And then we purchased some nanode. It's called It's Nanode. It's a barrier surface for our hand sanitizer, and it lasts for 8 hours, so it won't have to be constant hand sanitizing even after you wash your hands. Best way I can explain it is almost feels like liquid Band-Aid, and it's very safe. And then we've also purchased some It's Nanode surface barrier, like in our large rooms, like cafeterias and gyms. So that's really exciting, and we were able to do that with our American Relief Plan funds. And of course, we'll continue on replacing our air filters, and with these funds, we're going to get to do a lot of HVAC projects to improve our ventilation. We'll also have the learning options for students. We will continue with Ponca City Virtual Academy. We started that last year. When we started the year last year, we had 608 kids in Ponca City Virtual Academy. At the end of the year, obviously we want them to come back into the classroom. We had 235 kids. So we're going to do that on a limited basis. If there's someone who has vulnerabilities, health vulnerabilities, they can apply for Ponca City Virtual Academy, and we started registration this week, and we haven't had a lot of interest in Ponca City Virtual Academy, so I'm super excited about that. And then in our plan, we talk about vaccinations. At this point, the real key is going to be vaccinate. Kids will not have to quarantine if they're a close contact and they've been vaccinated. And right now it's 12 and up. And then we're hearing, I met with the state health department yesterday, that as early as late September, it can be approved for students younger than 12 years old too. And so we want to get a handle on those vaccines. We're having registration today at 111 West Grand, and the health department, as we speak, is setting up a vaccination clinic, and they are going to have the required vaccination clinic, required vaccines to get into school, plus they're going to be offering the Pfizer vaccine for those students who are eligible and interested, and parents have to be with them. So
very cool.
The board approved that plan, and with the emergency relief plan, we have to take a look at our return to learn plan every month, and sometimes we'll be making some decisions based on what happens. We'll just have to watch and see what happens with the Delta variant. So
absolutely.
We're excited for a better year, but hey, we've got plans in place, and we're very flexible.
Very good. SDE Emergency Rules for House Bill 1775. Can you bring us up to speed with this?
Sure. House Bill 1775 addresses a controversial topic, critical race theory. And this was developed back in the 70s and 80s, 1970s, 1980s. It's based on looking at American history through the lens of race or sex discrimination. And the discussion of this theory has become more prevalent as of late because of the civil and political unrest. So House Bill 1775 prohibits teaching that one race or one sex is superior to another. This measure prohibits that from being taught in public schools. Now, the confusion is we teach history in public schools, and we can still teach history in public schools on controversial topics such as slavery or genocide, and kids can talk about their feelings with that, but we cannot teach that one race or one sex is superior to the other, or shame any kids for being of one race or one sex, which we don't do that anyway. And the question becomes, is critical race theory being taught in school? And there's really not a lot of evidence in K through 12 schools that it's being taught in schools, though some central ideas may be lingering across the country in regard to slavery. But in Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma Academic Standards. We are teaching history but we are not teaching that one race
Right.
is superior to the next, and
Right.
we cannot shame kids, and we don't. Our
Right.
kids can still talk about that. So the OSDE came up with some emergency rules, and I'll tell you why, because our teachers are nervous. You know,
Right.
what is it that we can teach, and that what we can't, as long as we're following those academic standards, those Oklahoma academic standards, we're in good shape. And there's like 8 principles that are prohibited with House Bill 1775, and those are listed on our website as well. And it all has to do with shaming or superiority in regard to race and sex, and the State Department needed to adopt some emergency guidelines to give our teachers the confidence to know that their certificate's not going to be revoked for
Right.
teaching the Oklahoma academic standards. And with this set of rules, there are some things that are specific to ensure compliance. So any parent can review our curriculum at any time in these rules, but that was law already. Any of our parents can review our curriculum. We can't plan any courses that focus on the prohibitions of 1775 or spend any kind of money, state or federal money, on that. Parents also can file a complaint, a written complaint, and our executive director of curriculum would address the topics in the complaint. And schools that are failing to comply could have their accreditation deficiencies imposed, or even eventually become non-accredited after so many warnings. Individual teachers refusing to comply can have their certificate revoked, and you can't teach in Oklahoma without a certificate. It is not going to be an issue, because our teachers teach Oklahoma academic standards, and they're skilled at leading these conversations that is not shaming any race or
Right.
any sex, or demonstrating that one is superior over the other. So we tackled that head on. I'll be out in the community, and a lot of people ask me, "Are you going to teach critical race theory?" No, we don't do that. It's not part of the Oklahoma academic standards. And then finally, I gave a staffing report, and we added 10.5 positions this year,
Wow.
thanks to CARES and addressing academic loss. But this year, in May and June, we had 2,400 more Oklahoma teachers retire this time this year than this time last year.
Wow.
Now, we've talked about this before. This was 3 years after the historic teacher pay raise. So if your retirement's based on your 3 highest years of salary, we anticipated a lot of retirements 3 years after the historic pay raise. COVID didn't help that cause any, because it's been tough. So with an additional 2,400 Oklahoma teachers retiring, there's not that many education majors coming out of college. Not even to cover the 2,400 retirees, much less those that go into a different profession or leave the state. So it seemed like a real challenge this year, and we have several emergency certified teachers. We've hired 60 teachers, but you have to remember that 11 of those are new positions. It just seemed tough, but as of Monday night, we had 1 position to fill.
Wow.
And this is Wednesday. We still have athletic trainer, and that's it. Monday night we had 2 positions to fill: English at the high school and athletic trainer, and now we just have an athletic trainer. So
wow, that's incredible.
It's been a challenge. It's been 24/7.
Yeah, for sure. The Board of Education meeting for July, that's what we're talking about. This is the board wrap-up show. And agreements, something that's a part of the Board of Education meetings every
agreements.
month, right?
It was mostly the superintendent's report and some agreements, and I'll just share some of the highlights the use of the recplex for their pool. We have an agreement with the city for the use of the recplex, and our students, our swim team can use the pool,
Right.
and it's way more economical than us building a pool and trying to maintain it.
Right,
So
right.
it's that's something that we appreciate our partnership with the city on that.
Sure.
And then our resource officers, we are going to have 2 new resource officers this
wonderful.
year. So that we have a resource officer at the high school, and then we split one between east and west, and then if we need one at the elementary schools, they are available. We had some curriculum for social emotional learning, which we had approved last time for elementary, and this is more about growing leaders and leadership traits. It's great curriculum for our secondary that we'll be implementing in our secondary schools. Just everyone was traumatized by COVID, so we are really putting a lot of pieces in place to support that mental health of our students. Do we have learning gaps? Without a doubt, but until we have those relationships and that positive culture and working on mental health, and we've all struggled, academics will not happen until we get those in check. So that's going to be a big focus for us, and we'll talk about that another time too. But those were the major agreements.
Very good. Then there was an executive session in the July Board of Education meeting, and of course, that is behind closed doors, and the executive session is.
There are certain things that we can talk about, and we
Okay.
list all of those things on the agenda that we can talk about. And one of those is we can discuss negotiations in executive session. And we negotiated with our teachers on July 8th, and there were some asks on both sides, give and take on both sides. And I will tell you, we have a great relationship with our bargaining unit. It is not contentious, and we come to the table as a team. It's not them versus us or us versus them.
Right.
And anyway, the board approved the negotiations pending ratification from the bargaining unit, and they will not meet to ratify until August 13th, until they come back to school. So the board's done approved on the board's end, so
Right.
now we just need ratification from the staff, and it won't be a problem because
Very good. Well, every month, this is an opportunity for you to get a concise report. Of course, you can watch the Board of Education meeting live, but you can also get this board wrap-up with Superintendent Shelley Arrett every month. And we'll see you again in August. For Shelley Arrett, thank you very much. And we'll be starting school August 18th. For Shelley Arrett and for Ponca City Public Schools, this is the Board Wrap-Up Show. Thanks for watching. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. Until next time.